Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're at Summerhill in Hartlepool. Winter always changes a place like this. Summerhill feels quieter in the winter, as if the land itself has taken a deep breath and decided to slow everything down. The colours are softer now, muted greens, pale browns and long stretches of sky that seem much bigger than they do in the summer. The path feels more open, the air a little sharper, and there's a sense that space belongs just as much to the season as it does to the people walking through it. As I start this walk, there's no rush. Winter walks aren't about distance or pace, they're about presence. Noticing where you are, how the air feels on your face, and how the ground sounds beneath your feet. Even the smallest details seem louder now. The crunch of the gravel, the rustle of dry leaves, the wind moving through bare branches. Summerhill has always been a place of movement. Families, cyclists, dog walkers, kids heading towards the skate park or the climbing area. But in winter it becomes something else. A place for quiet thinking. A place where the landscape does most of the talking. The trees along the path stand tall and exposed, their branches stripped back to their essentials. Without leaves you can see the shape properly, twisting, stretching, sometimes leaning as if shaped by years of the North Sea winds. There's something honest about trees in winter. Nothing hidden, nothing extra, just structure, strength and survival. As I walk further in, the path begins to open out. The ground here rises and falls in subtle ways, nothing dramatic, but enough to remind you that this is a landscape shaped by time, weather and human hands. Summerhill was once industrial land, and there's something quite satisfying about seeing it now as a place for walking, breathing and being outdoors. Winter light is a habit of changing quickly. One moment of sky is pale and still, and the next is laid with moving clouds, shadows, sliding across the grass. When the sun does break through, even briefly, it feels like a small gift, a reminder that brighter days are already on their way, even if spring still feels a long way off. To one side, open grassland stretches out, tinged with frost on colder days. In early mornings the ground often sparkles, tiny ice crystals catching the light, making the whole area feel almost unreal. Even later in the day, there's a crispness to the air here that wakes you up, especially if you spend too long indoors. Winter has a way of sharpening your senses. The cold makes you more aware of your breathing. The quiet surroundings make you listen more carefully. The absence of colour makes every detail stand out. A lone bird crossing the sky, a dog darting ahead of its owner, footsteps pressed into the soft ground. There's something comforting about walking here in winter. Summerhill doesn't demand anything from you. You don't have to be fit, fast or focused. Just turn up, step onto the path and let the walk unfold at its own pace. As the path curves, the views change again. Fences appear, guiding movements without restricting it. You get those long, open sight lines that make this place feel bigger than it actually is. On a clear day, the sky feels endless. That wide northern sky makes you feel both small and strangely calm at the same time. Winter skies have their own character, sometimes heavy and grey, sometimes bright and sharp, sometimes laid with soft blues and silvers. Even on overcast days, there's a depth to the light you don't always notice in other seasons. Walking here, it's easy to fall into a rhythm, step after step, breath after breath. Thoughts drift in and out without effort. Some days, this kind of walk helps you think through things. Other days, it gives your mind a reset altogether. Both are equally valuable. The sounds around you are simpler in winter. Fewer voices, fewer bikes passing, fewer sudden bursts of activity. Instead there's wind, distant traffic, softened by the space. The occasional call of a bird. It's not silence, but it's close enough to feel peaceful. As I continue along the path, the land opens out again, revealing more of Summerhill's layout. You can see how the different areas flow into each other, open fields giving way to more structured spaces, paths intersecting, people choosing their own routes depending on their mood, time or energy. Winter walks tend to be purposeful but relaxed, people are wrapped up in their coats and hats, hands tucked in their pockets, faces slightly pink from the cold. There's often a shared understanding between winter walkers, a nod, a quiet hello, a brief smile. You're all out for the same reason, fresh air, movement and a break from the indoors. The ground underfoot changes subtly as you go. firmer paths giving way to softer edges, patches where the rain has darkened the surface and where frost has lingered in the shadows. These small changes keep the walk interesting without demanding attention. In places the wind cuts across the open ground, reminding you this is the northeast. Exposed, honest and shaped by the weather. It's the kind of cold that feels clean rather than harsh, especially when you're moving. Each step warms you slightly, each breath feels clearer than the last. There's a simplicity to winter walking that's easy to overlook. No distractions, no expectations, just the act of walking itself. Places like Summerhill shine in this season because they don't have to rely on colour or crowds to feel worthwhile. They hold onto their value quietly. As I follow the path onward, the landscape feels steady and grounding. It's the kind of space and the kind of walk that doesn't try to impress you or need to impress you. It just offers space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to exist for a while without needing to do anything else. And in winter especially, that kind of space is very important. I will leave you to enjoy the walk for a while and we'll continue with the commentary later on. As the walk continues, the sense of space becomes even more noticeable. Winter has a way of stripping everything back to its essentials, and places like this benefit from it. Without leaves, without long grass, without summer noise, the shape of the land feels clearer, and you can see how the paths were laid out, how the slopes gently rise and fall away again, how everything connects. There's something reassuring about this clarity. Walking in now, you're reminded that this is a place designed for people to move through, at their own pace. Some will loop back quickly, others will wander for miles linking paths together almost without thinking. In winter there's less pressure to do it all. You choose a route that feels right and let the rest go. The air feels different as you move across the open ground, colder maybe, but fresher too. The kind of air that clears your head with every breath, and the sort of cold that makes you pull your collar up a little higher, but it also makes you feel more awake. Off in the distance the landscape feels wide and exposed. On days like this the horizon matters more than the details. Your eyes naturally lift, drawn towards the sky rather than the ground. Clouds drift slowly, never quite staying still, but even when they're heavy, they carry a quiet beauty. Winter clouds have a way to them. They don't rush. They hang, shift, and change shape gradually, reminding you that time doesn't always need to move so fast. As I walk on, the path feels steady beneath my feet. There's a comfort in that predictability, step by step, a rhythm that settles into your body without effort. It's easy to forget how grounding simple movement can be until you find yourself doing it regularly. This part of the walk feels especially calm. Fewer people pass by now. The sounds fade even further into the background. When someone does appear, a lone walker, a dog bounding ahead, it feels almost like a brief interruption before the quiet settles again. Winter walking is a different social energy. People are polite but reserved. Conversations are shorter, greetings softer. There's an unspoken understanding that everyone is here for the same quiet reasons. The grass beside the path looks duller now, but not lifeless. Winter isn't removing life, it just slows it down. Beneath the surface everything is waiting, roots are resting, soil is holding moisture, and growth is quietly preparing itself for later in the year. That idea carries itself into how winter walks make you feel. They don't excite you in the same way summer walks do. Instead they steady you. They give you time to reset, to pause, and to let things settle. As the path curves again, the view shifts slightly, offering a new angle on the same landscape. There's a gentle reminder that even familiar places can feel different depending on where you stand, how you approach them, and what season you are in. The wind moves more freely here, crossing the open space without obstruction. You can feel it on your face, hear it briefly on your ears, and then it passes. Moments like this keep you anchored in the present. You're not thinking ahead or looking back. You're just right here, now, walking. Winter light continues to change as the minutes pass. Sometimes it brightens just enough to lift the scene. Sometimes it dulls again, flattening the colours into greys and browns. Neither feels negative. Both suit the mood of the walk. There's an honesty to winter landscapes that's easy to appreciate. Nothing is pretending to be more than it is. The land isn't dressed up. It's simply existing, quietly and steadily, much like the way people are walking through it. As I move further along, you notice how the path gradually guides you, without forcing direction. You can follow it exactly, or drift slightly to one side, adjusting your route depending on how you feel. That freedom makes the walk feel personal, even though it's a shared space. Winter also changes how you notice time. Minutes pass without you really tracking them. The walk doesn't feel rushed or slow, it just unfolds. That's one of the small gifts of being outside in the colder months. Without the pressure to make the most of the weather, you naturally settle into whatever pace feels comfortable. The quiet here makes room for reflection, not deep heavy thinking, just gentle thoughts drifting through. Small things, everyday things, or sometimes nothing at all. There's no need to fill the silence. And with that I will leave you for a little bit longer to enjoy the walk, and I will catch you up later for some more commentary. Further along the landscape opens out again, offering another stretch of space where sky and land meet uninterrupted. On days like this it's easy to see why people return here again and again, even in winter. Especially in the winter. This kind of walk doesn't compete with anything else. It doesn't demand attention. It simply offers consistency, no matter the season. The paths remain, the views remain, and the sense of openness remains. Winter walks are often underestimated. People talk about getting through winter, waiting for the spring, counting down the days until the colour returns, but walks like this remind you that winter has its own value, its own pace, and its own beauty. As the path begins to loop back, there's a subtle shift in the feeling. The walk starts to feel complete, even though you haven't consciously marked the turning point. Your body recognises it before your mind does. A steady rhythm easing, the sense of having gone somewhere and returned again. The cold feels less noticeable now. Movement has warmed you. The initial sharpness has softened into something more comfortable. Breathing feels easy, natural and unforced. Looking back across the space you've walked through, there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing that you took the time, not for fitness goals or productivity, just for the walk itself. Winter doesn't always invite you outdoors, but when you accept the invitation, places like this reward you gently. No spectacle, no drama, just space, air and time. As the end of the route approaches, the sound of everyday life slowly returns. Distant traffic, faint voices, subtle reminders that the world beyond the path continue as normal, but the calm from the walk lingers. That's one of the understated benefits of winter walking. You don't just enjoy it while you're doing it, you carry on with it afterwards. This has been a slow walk, a quiet walk. A winter walk doesn't need to try anything more than it is, and sometimes that's exactly what you need. As the walk begins to draw towards its end, there's noticeable change in how everything feels. The landscape hasn't suddenly shifted, but the rhythm slows more naturally. Your steps become a little less purposeful. Your attention softens, and the space around you feels familiar again. It's one of the quiet pleasures of longer walks, the gentle transition from movement back into stillness. Winter has a way of encouraging that shift. There's no pressure to keep pushing on, no sense that you should be chasing views or landmarks. You've already had what the walk had to offer. Now it's simply about letting it settle. The air feels cool but not uncomfortable. Your body is adjusted, warmed by steady movement. Breathing feels deeper, more relaxed, as if the walk has smoothed something out without you even noticing. As the path leads you back towards familiar ground, details stand out in a different way. Things you passed earlier now feel quieter, less demanding of attention. The landscape isn't asking to be explored anymore. It's just there, steady and unchanged. Winter walking often brings a sense of completion that doesn't rely on distance or time. It's not about how far you've gone, it's about how present you are and how present you have been while doing it. The sounds around you slowly become more noticeable again and recognisable. A voice carried by the wind, footsteps somewhere behind you, the faint hum of the town beyond the open space. These sounds don't break the calm, they ease you back into everyday life. There's something reassuring about that return. You're stepping out of that peaceful place into chaos. You're simply carrying that calm with you. The sky overhead continues with its slow movement, clouds drifting without urgency. Even now, it feels like winter is encouraging patience. Nothing is rushing, nothing is demanding change. Everything is allowed to move at its own pace. As you walk, it's easy to reflect on how different this place feels, depending on the season. In summer it's lively and full, in autumn it softens, in winter it becomes reflective, a place that gives you space, rather than stimulation. It's the kind of space that's easy to underestimate. Winter walks don't shout. They don't impress in obvious ways. They work quietly, almost invisibly, leaving you a little calmer, a little steadier than when you arrived. The path beneath your feet feels familiar now. Each step lands with confidence, without thought. Your body knows the way back, allowing your mind to drift freely. This is often the best kind of calm when it appears, not forced, not intentional, just present. There's no need to rush the ending of the walk. Even as you approach familiar landmarks, the pace remains unhurried. Winter encourages that. It asks you to slow down rather than squeeze more out of it. Looking across the open ground one last time, there's a quiet appreciation for the simplicity of it all. No grand scenery, no dramatic features, just space, sky, and the land working together to create something peaceful. Places like this matter, especially in the winter. They offer somewhere to breathe when the days are shorter and the world feels heavier. Somewhere to move gently, without expectations. As the walk comes to a close, the cold air feels almost refreshing now, a reminder that you've been outside, that you've moved, and that you've taken some time out for yourself. That feeling often lingers long after the walk itself is finished. Winter has a way of doing that. It doesn't overwhelm you with the moments. Instead, it leaves you with small impressions that stay quietly in the background. A steadier mood, a clearer head, the sense of having done something simple and worthwhile. As you take the final steps, there's no need for a dramatic ending. The walk doesn't need one. It simply finishes just as calmly as it began, and that's enough. This has been a winter walk, slow, open and unhurried. A reminder that even in the quietest seasons, places like this continue to offer space, comfort and calm. Thank you for walking along with me. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and consider subscribing, as it will help the channel grow. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you on the next one. Please enjoy the remaining footage.